guys. So this is a little relaxed, casual Q&A session. So anyone who comments on the YouTube channel and has some questions regarding videos that I post, your comments and questions will be answered in this playlist. Okay, so this week we've had two questions that I'll be addressing today in the comment section. So the first one was, not being a data analyst by trade and outside of the data displayed, what has been your main takeaway from analysing Australia's gas exports? So to answer this question, Australia's export markets consistently dominate over domestic supply, and that imbalance creates structural tension between global demand and local affordability and security. So basically, it's the domestic market competing against the international market with energy. All countries have their own interests to, uh, you know, keep their country going as far as energy security is concerned. So it's within those countries' best interest to lock in long-term contracts with different energy sources across different with different countries or markets that export energy, or in this case, gas exports in Australia. The LNG export markets, as far as that goes, the largest is one of the largest international consumers, um, uh, and they have joint ventures with Australian companies, and the infrastructure used to transport the gas is foreign owned by China, Korea, and Japanese firms to secure their energy needs and interests. Comes back to sort of what I just sort of said. These countries are looking to secure their own energy needs because there's they're highly dense cities and populated cities in these particular nations. They need a lot of power to run these cities. So having that security is important to them. So the government and big companies are willing to invest in offshore based infrastructure to secure their energy security within their nation. The Australian government makes money off taxes and royalties, but some of the revenue that these big companies are making is being used to pay back debt to international financial institutions, as the Australian LNG industry has required 300 billion in investment since 2010. So a lot of the big mining or gas companies in Australia would have some debt that they are paying back to global financial based institutions, and some of the revenue or profit from their business would go back into paying off those debts. Okay, so that's sort of some of the things that I've sort of learnt there. I will post up some PDFs and a few things. So another thing I just want to quickly point out here is, I'm just going to share my screen quickly. I have the AEMO gas statement of opportunities for Australia's East Coast gas market. Okay, and this sort of just backs up the next question that we come to here. Why is gas so expensive in Australia? In fact, more expensive than those countries when we have such an abundant supply. So some of that's answered by the first question. We're competing with the global market for energy, and we're exporting a lot more than sort of what we're consuming. So if we look here, we can sort of see the actual and the forecasted NEM, or National Electricity Market, and Northern Territory gas generation annual consumption. And we can sort of see here what it was from 2020 to 24 and where we're sort of forecasted to go here. And basically, this is saying that annual consumption is going to increase here. And the problem with annual consumption increasing in the national electricity market in Australia is when we look at the daily production capacity from southern gas fields, um, we're looking here at forecasted decrease over the coming years. Okay, so straight away from a supply demand uh, point of view, we are producing less, we're consuming more, and we're not producing what we need to produce to service the domestic market because all the gas that we're producing is going to into the export market. So the only way to overcome this is better infrastructure and dig up more gas, ensuring that government allows gas companies to dig for more gas and lifts the approvals process, allows permits at a faster rate. Um, there's sort of a bit of a debate about that in government, and because government is very focused on renewable energy projects at the moment, and sort of slowing gas a little bit to try and build up renewable energy to try and get 100% on the domestic household when it comes to renewable energy. So I'm having a look here now. We can sort of see once again it's going to be a bit of a struggle here by the time we get to 2029. The second point I just want to sort of point out here is we can sort of have a look at progressive change, green energy exports, step change here. So there's going to be a bit of a difference here in sort of what we're looking to export. Australia's looking at also exporting more green energy exports in the future as demand increases for that. That could potentially change the amount of LNG that is being exported in the global market if Australia sort of pivots to renewables. But some of the problems down here again is, with transportation and storage options, we have, we can sort of see down here the pipeline solutions that increase north-south gas transfers, um, can delay the forecast supply gaps to 2034. Uncertain who sees southern supply and renewable gas may delay forecast supply gaps to 2034. An LNG regasification terminal may delay forecast supply gaps to 2033 or 2034. Okay, so basically, this sort of says here that supply is going to be an issue on the domestic market with LNG, um, for the years to come until these pipelines here can, um, you know, be built, like the Hunter Gas Pipeline, Narrabri to Newcastle by 2028, for example. Um, and then Port Campbell to Adelaide pipeline reversal from 2028. Okay. And then you can see the new supplies coming in 26, 27, 28 there. But if that new supply isn't enough to, um, sort of combat the demand that we're getting from the export market, we'll still see some high energy prices there for a while yet. Okay. Um, Next thing I want to sort of just talk about is this just sort of answers the 344 billion in revenue, or the gross. Yes, so where did the 344 billion go? So if we're looking here, um, gas exports 56% given to corporations, royalty free. So around 80% of Australia's gas is exported as liquefied natural gas or LNG. Most of this gas is extracted from gas fields in Commonwealth waters, but the Australian government has failed to levy royalties on gas feeding 6 of the 7 offshore gas LNG export terminals operating in Western Australia and the Northern Territory. Overall, this means over half the gas exported from Australia is royalty free. Okay, so if you look down here, no royalties are paid on 56% of the gas that is exported from Australia, including 73% of gas exported from WA. Um, and, so basically you can see here that multinational companies are making 149 billion exporting royalty free gas. So you can see that a lot of these businesses that sit side of Australia are making money on um, Australia's resources. So no royalties are paid on gas supplying major facilities owned by those particular companies. Royalties are only paid by the heavily subsidised Northwest Shelf and onshore fields. So, straight away, this sort of just opens up a whole new sort of perspective, I guess, into the Australian industry around, exports, I guess. And there's an article, there's a PDF here that, you can sort of go through and have a bit of a read through in your own time. I'll, um, you know, put this through in the description so you can sort of see what's sort of going on. All right, I'm just going to stop my share now. And just to sort of finish off the 344 billion in revenue. So basically, that's just a gross export value, not what stays in Australia. Um, so, LNG exports are sold on free on board or cost insurance freight basis, depending on contracts. Foreign owned infrastructure, as mentioned before, owns many, LNG projects in Australia, or many of the LNG projects in Australia are majority foreign owned. Japan, China, Korean firms to secure their own energy interest, debt servicing, and capital costs due to 300 billion being spent on investment in the Australian LNG industry since 2010, as I mentioned in the last comment. These are repayments gas companies have to pay back to international financial institutions. Roughly 5 to 10% goes to taxes and royalties back to the Australian government. The reason energy and gas prices are still expensive in Australia are energy producers or companies can often earn more selling overseas than domestically, which drives up local prices. So that's just the invested sort of that's just within the best interest of the company to return profits to shareholders. Um, as I mentioned in one of my recent videos, LNG exports are worth tens of billions of dollars annually. Domestic gas prices are often linked to global markets or geopolitical factors, not local production costs. Some may also argue that moving to solar, wind, and renewables may also add a spike to short-term cost blowouts as the government sort of focuses its attention on those projects as opposed to, um, you know, gas-based projects. So, people who are into politics might sort of argue that one party might move more towards gas, another party might move towards renewables and clean energy. Um, so basically, yeah, in a nutshell, it's Australia's gas production is locked into long-term export contracts within the Asian market. This drives up the prices on the domestic market, and then not having those approvals by the government to be able to then go and dig up and you know increase the gas supply to the domestic market can increase the price of uh, energy and gas on the domestic market. So that's basically it in a nutshell there, guys. If you've got any more kind of questions or, you're a little bit interested or you don't 100% agree with sort of what I've said, feel free to drop a comment in the questions down below and, we can talk it out on the next video. Cheers.